Go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Greenfield Conservation Commission at 6:32 p.m. On March 26th, 2024. And just a note off the top that if since this is being held virtually, if any technical interruption occurs and the meeting suddenly ends without notice, it will not be resumed tonight, and all items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting date. As you may have heard, the Conservation Commission is recording this meeting, and if anyone else is recording the meeting, you are required to let me know. All right, don't hear any. We do have all five conservation commissioners here, so we do have a quorum. So first on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes, March 12th, 2024.
I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 12th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Kristen, seconded by Erica. Any other discussion on those minutes? Anyone find any glaring errors?
Emily, you're in the dock. Do you see anything?
Nope. Looks
I
good to
thought it
me.
all looked good. All right, hearing no discussion, we will do a roll call vote as we are required to do since we are virtual. So I'll just go in the order. I see people on my screen here. So for approval of the meeting minutes, Elizabeth,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Erica,
Aye. Aye.
aye. Emily, and
Aye.
Emily is an aye, and Travis is an aye. All right. Sorry, I was trying to get my document froze and I couldn't get it back. Okay. So the minutes are approved from March 12th, 2024. All right. And so tonight we have one public hearing on the agenda. That is public hearing notice of intent improvements at the Greenfield Water Pollution Control Facility at 384 Deerfield Street, maps 1415, lots 3A and 1. And this is DEP file number 168360, continued from March 12th, 2024. And just to remind everyone and anyone who wasn't at that meeting, our agenda has this brief description of the project. The project proposes to replace the aging infrastructure at the facility, to replace an existing covered tanker truck area with a new solids loading garage, to replace an existing external staircase, and to upgrade some existing pavement and curbing directly east of the facility. And who would like to be presenting for that project?
Yeah, I will. Again, I'm Jeremy Degler. I work for Ty and Bond, representing the Department of Public Works. I'm an environmental scientist. Zach's here as well from Ty and Bond to answer any engineering-based questions. This was a continuance from last time when we had a comments response letter that we had provided to DEP on the same day as the meeting, so there wasn't time to review that. So we did provide that comments response letter last week. We'd be happy to discuss that or answer any questions that might have come up during your review of those materials.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good place to start if you want to go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can share my screen. So this is our response letter. There were 3 comments that we received. The first one was just stating that, according to 310 CMR 1058-6H, that the project activities are exempt from the riverfront standards. So the only resource area work proposed is BLSF, boarding land subject to flooding. We acknowledged that, and then still in the NOI paper, we explained that we are still meeting those standards, even though we are exempt. Additionally, there were comments for the plans that we needed 1-foot contours that were added onto let's see, to the plans in Appendix B, we also added a note onto sheet C101 stating that all of our elevations were based on the NGVD 29 datum. And an additional note was added stating that the entire site is within the limits of the FEMA flood zone. We couldn't add the boundary of the flood zone since it's just beyond the entirety of the site. So the whole site's laying within the flood zone, and we added a note stating that. And additionally, one of the big changes in section 4 of our NOI, we added a table showing the cut and fill volumes for each one of the 1 foot incremental elevations. And that was based off of the hydrology handbook guidance. And so that was added here. We also, the plans were updated. We included these. If you had any questions on those, again, we'd be happy to answer. Like I said, the 1 foot contours you can see have been added, and then the notes. This is our section 4. We just included the entire section. Nothing changed here except for the addition of the cut and fill volume table. And the last thing that we included was the original letter from DEP with the 3 comments that I just discussed previously.
Great, thanks. Does any commissioners have any questions come up during their review of this before the meeting, or is there anything in particular anyone wants to see? I know we kind of walked through all this at the last meeting, and I think we were just wanted a little bit more time since we just got the materials. I think it was that day, the updates. So I think we just wanted another meeting just to make sure we had time to review everything.
I just have a general comment for the commissioners. How do you all feel about the 200-foot riverfront buffer text? Because technically not a buffer, it's the resource area. Is that something that we want to have changed, or what do you all think?
I guess in general, I would say it's better for it to say 200 for riverfront area instead of buffer. I think we do see plans that say buffer. And this one is exempt from riverfront standards anyway. So, I mean, it's not a huge deal to me, I think, especially for this project. But I guess I would just say, in general, it's better for it to say 200-foot riverfront area instead of buffer.
Jeremy, we haven't received hard copies of this plan set, have we?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so it's not like if you made that little change, it would be another full set of 24 by 36-inch plans.
Correct.
Okay.
And I guess just to kind of summarize from the last meeting, I think we were talking about how this was, it ended up, because it is exempt from riverfront standards, ends up being a fairly simple project for permitting purposes. And since it's only bordering land subject to flooding. And I was just looking at a thing here about bordering land subject to flooding, and Mitch put together a little summary saying it's only in bordering land subject to flooding. The grading will actually result in the increase of flood storage capacity. And the proposed work doesn't seem to be constricting flows or cause an increase in flood stage or velocity. And it's less than 10% of bordering land subject to flooding in this area. It's 0.4% of bordering land subject to flooding on the property.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that relevant to the wildlife habitat evaluation, or what's that specifically pointing to, that percentage? Mitch, are you on the call?
Yeah, I think that's just performance standard for land subject to flooding.
Okay.
Like they're allowed to a certain percentage,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I think. I was trying to get to the performance standard.
While you're digging that up, where's the call out box that says entire parcels in BLSF? Am I missing it? Oh, I
Right
see.
here.
Thank you. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Oh yeah, so Kristen, that for the performance standard, it says work in those portions of bordering land subject to flooding found to be significant to the protection of wildlife habitat shall not impair its capacity to provide important wildlife habitat functions, except for work which would adversely affect vernal pool habitat, a project or projects on a single lot for which notices of intent is filed after 1987. That cumulatively alters up to 10% or 5,000 square feet, whichever is less, um, of land found to be significant to the protection of wildlife habitat shall not be deemed to impair its habitat, its capacity to provide important wildlife habitat functions.
Okay, that's kind of what my instinct was saying, that it was like a 10.60 thing, that it was a DEP Appendix B wildlife habitat trigger.
Yep. Yeah, it says as determined by procedures contained in 310 CMR 1060.
Okay. Thank you, Travis.
Mm-hmm. And the only other two performance standards are that they shall provide compensatory storage shall be provided for all flood storage volume that will be lost, but that's not happening because they're actually increasing flood storage. And then the other standard is work within bordering land subject to flooding, including that work required to provide the above specified compensatory storage shall not restrict flows so as to cause an increase in flood stage or velocity. So it's just those three performance standards. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the last meeting, I'm pretty sure we said we were talking about how this building is going to be open so that if there was a flood, the building itself would flood on the inside as well.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, it would just allow the water to come in and right back out. So no change in flood stage or velocity.
Yeah. And yeah, erosion. I think, did we discuss the type of erosion control barrier that you were going to be using?
Did, and we had a
Thought so.
fallout on that over here, which yep. So we've got the dimensions of everything. It's just going to be 9-inch wattles, 2 by 2 by 2 foot wood stakes, and then just the silt fence right behind it.
Any commissioners have any other questions or comments? And we could open it to public comments for this meeting, for this public hearing. Right, not hearing anything from the commission right now, so I will go ahead and open it up to public comments if anyone here would like to make a public comment on this. Not hearing any, so I'm going to assume no public comments for this public hearing. No, no one's speaking up. Okay. All right. So I guess for the commissioners, if we think we have everything we need, we could close the public hearing and approve or deny the project and issue an order of conditions. or if anyone has any other questions or issues to bring up before that.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right, motion to close the public hearing is seconded. Any discussion on that? All right, hearing none. We'll do a roll call vote to close the public hearing. Erica,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Elizabeth,
Aye.
Emily.
Aye.
All right, so that is unanimous and the public hearing is closed. So, anyone want to make a motion to issue an order of conditions?
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions for Mass DEP file 1680360, which is the project located at 384 Deerfield Street.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to issue an order of conditions. Any discussion on that? Any specific conditions anyone feels like we would need for this project? I feel like it seems pretty straightforward. I'm not sure what conditions would be required to ensure that the performance standards are met.
Mhm.
Sounds like they're already going to be met. So just boilerplate conditions about installing erosion control and removing erosion control after the project. And seems pretty straightforward, I think.
Yeah, I know we talked about other stuff at the last meeting, but I think that it's out of scope really, and
Yeah.
I feel confident with the boilerplate personally.
Okay. Mitch, did you have anything that you saw that you thought might be needed?
No, I couldn't think of any. I feel with the
Okay.
erosion control, I think
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay. That sounds like just boilerplate conditions. Anyone have any other discussion before we vote on issuing the order of conditions? All right. Hearing none, we will vote on the motion to issue an order of conditions. Kristen,
Aye.
Elizabeth,
Aye.
Erica,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and I am an aye. So that is unanimous, and we will be issuing an order of conditions for this project.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great evening.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Okay, so that was going to be the end of our meeting. But I knew that was going to be short, so I asked Mitch to just add a few things that I've been, wanting to talk about, or that it would be good for us to talk about, just since we were all going to be together.
Before we get into those,
Oh.
there's something that's kind of last minute. I don't know if we want to do that first, let them get out of here,
Sure.
then get into our stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. That's the Picket Lane project. I think there's someone here for that.
Okay.
But it's some trees that weren't originally going to be cut, but are kind of leaning, and they're worried at some point would fall onto the house they're building. So they're looking for either guidance on an RDA or amending the order conditions or what we're thinking.
Mhm. Okay. Do we have pictures or, I don't know, plans of like where these trees are?
I think I have one photo.
And you guys, could you guys introduce yourselves and kind of give us an update on?
Are we up?
Yep,
Is
you're
this
up.
Picket Lane? Okay, sorry, I just jumped in.
That's okay. We kind of went out of order, so we figured
Oh,
we
okay.
would make you not wait until the end.
Oh, appreciate that. So is Mitch on?
Yep, he's
Yeah.
here. He just brought
Yeah.
up a photo.
Okay. Mitch, I did send you a handful of pics, but anyway, just long story short is you see the silt fence and everything, and to the left of that there's trees that are, when we had three different tree companies come and give quotes and look it over, and they all think that those ones that are very close to the fence, which is basically going to be very close to the house, because all you can't really see pictures, but they're all leaning towards the house, and they're very big, um, and they're not getting any smaller. And they all said that those, will be an issue
Mhm.
as far as risk to the house or whatever, even or the other part is clear, the more exposed to wind, those that type of thing. So, and our quest was really just to, because of all that, I mean, basically that
Oh, your audio's breaking up on us here. I've gotten most of it so far, but it was starting to get really bad, and I couldn't hear what you were saying there.
oh, um, can you hear it now?
Yeah, it's off and on, but yeah.
Okay. I don't know. We're turned up, right?
Yeah, I think it just seemed like a connection issue, I think. Maybe if you could turn your video off, there might be more bandwidth for the audio. I've seen people do that before. Oh, now you're muted.
Though eight or pose a danger where we're hoping to get approval to, not stop up the earth part as far as like the wetland or there's no wetland there, but point just the yeah, just to take them down to the like a stump and leave everything else intact.
Okay, and
Did you
it's
catch
just
how many?
yeah, I was gonna ask, I see two trees in this photo that are flagged. Is it just those two trees?
It looks like
Three.
there's more in the back. I can
Yeah,
see.
there's
Can you zoom in there? Here you go. Yep.
Uh,
all the way on the left. Yeah, there's
Oh,
I
in
have
all
other
the
pictures. Yeah, there you go. That's our pitch. You have to look at there, but you can see the pink. I just put the pink tape around them,
yeah.
Mhm.
and there's one up in the very front there too. If you look far left.
Oh, yeah.
Um, oh, it's okay. Sorry, got my grandson here. Um, anyways, so um, yeah, so from the front to the back, it's really all in kind of one line, those trees, and they're all very close to the house. And the ones towards the back were pretty close to the house because of the narrower footprint, it's going to be kind of a more of a narrow house in the front, and
Mhm.
it'll go back like whatever it is, 50 feet or something, the house.
Mhm.
So and
Okay.
they're all pines, the ones we're talking about. So there's not a lot of, it's not really wood value. I don't know. I don't think they look particularly healthy, but I'm not a tree person. So, but all the tree guys said they were an issue.
Okay. Thanks. Um, Anyone have any first impressions or questions?
Yeah, can you just remind us what this application was for? Was this an RDA that was given a negative determination, and will this request change anything that was previously filed?
No, this was a local NOI. I think it was an RDA for Wetlands Protection Act local NOI. This is the one that had the riverfront on both sides, and they were building a house like right in between, right in the outside the 100 foot
Yeah, it was
riverfront,
the
local
John
riverfront.
Schulte's project.
Yeah,
This is one where we went with, they were going with Plan F or whatever it was.
Right.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, Design
Okay.
F.
And so originally, when they went out and Drew and Jackie first bought it, it was with the expectation that they'd be able to go over further anyways. But which isn't, it's fine. The space is fine. It's just those guys that are right gonna be hanging right over the house. I mean, the house is gonna be pretty close to that silt fence, the driveway, the whole thing. So those trees are gonna be within a few feet.
Mhm. Yeah, so Kristen, I think this would be just, it would be on the outer edge of the 100-foot riverfront for our local ordinance, and I believe within a 100-foot buffer of wetland. But on the outer edge of the 100-foot buffer for a
But it's
wetland.
still in buffer zone under Wetlands Protection Act.
Yes, yeah.
And what did we get a total tree count?
I think it's 6. Is that right?
Well, it's yeah, originally, Mitch, I said 6. It's 8. If because they added that one up in the front and then one towards the back. The one towards the front is probably not that much of an issue as far as the house, but it's pretty close to the road and it's they're all leaning. That's the thing, which is why the tree guys called them out. They're all happen to be leaning in the wrong direction, not in a safe direction.
Do we have a copy of the arborist report?
That we just talked to some tree people, so I mean I don't know if there's no arborist report, but
Who are your tree people?
well, we didn't actually decide yet because we're trying to figure out quotes and timing and all that. But it just happened to be that the 3 quotes that we got, or when they came to meet us there, they all said the same thing, that those should come down.
And who have you been consulting with?
One was Rich Pantramel. I don't know if you know the tree people, but out of Ashfield. Um, Another one was MD Mike. I forgot his last name. Davis out of Turner's Falls. And then the last ones we talked to are from Holly. I forget the name of the business, but his name is Wes. And they've all been tree people. They're all big company, good sized companies, have been doing it for a long time.
Elizabeth, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I feel like you're our tree expert here. Just thought I'd see if you had any questions or comments.
Obviously I would defer to Kristen in terms of the water resource issue, but I look, just based on what I'm seeing in the picture, I'm not entirely sure that those are actually all pine. It's kind of hard to determine at this point. But I would pose the question to the commission that, does the species of the tree matter so much as the overall removal and the process the impact that process will create.
Mm.
I'm so glad you said that because I was like, I don't think that's a pine, and I don't think that's a pine, and that doesn't look like a pine. Um, so
But
yeah,
I think,
yeah.
but so my larger question to the commission is, does the species matter so much as the impact into the resource area to remove them?
Yeah, I guess that's a question is, do you guys know like what method, they're proposing to, like how to remove those trees? Like, are they gonna have to drive the equipment in there, or would it just be like within equipment within the like building zone anyway.
Yeah, yeah, because they're that close. I mean, they'd have to get over there with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
But as far as any equipment, they're close enough where they could stay within the approved area there.
Mhm.
So this is
Um,
a relatively densely populated area insofar as there are other homes relatively nearby. Is that correct? Am I remembering that?
well, in that particular spot, there actually isn't. I mean, if you go around the corner and pick a lane, there's house after house.
Mhm.
But this particular spot to the left of what you can't, the left side of that what you can't see is a lot of space, until the next house.
So
And then
that
the other
far
side,
left indicated tree there.
I'm sorry.
So that tree on on what to me is the far left of the image that also has a
Yep.
pink. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There's
There's
nothing
a
on that side of it.
long, yeah, there's a long ways to the next house. I mean, I don't know how many feet, but it's, probably 300. And then the other side is even more. It's 2 acres of land and it's all woods.
Right.
Mhm.
And this is only 0.15 that was approved to clear.
Mhm.
So, and then,
So the only reason I raised that question is because if these trees are determined to be close enough to other properties, other things that would be damaged by just dropping a tree, then they're going to need to bring in additional equipment to top and lower each
yep,
segment of the tree as they go.
right. And that part, I know what you're saying, and that won't be necessary because they'll drop them. First of all, any direction you go except for the street is safe because there's a lot of space. And then furthermore, they can drop them into the woods.
Gotcha.
I'm confused why, if this is considered the developable footprint and that's like sort of the, I don't want to say like shade zone, but I guess the safety zone of the building of the envelope, why it wasn't included in the original proposal, the alternatives.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, uh, John handled that, John Schultes, and he did a good job. All the
Yeah.
alternatives and alternate plans, etc. But I, I think I don't know. He's not on right now, and it was kind of a afterthought because we were just happy to get whatever approved so it could be
Right.
built. So it wasn't until the tree people came and they said, "Well, what about those? Those are a problem."
Yeah, and Kristen, I think it was mainly because they were trying to stay out of that 100-foot
Yep.
inner riverfront area for the local ordinance as much as possible. So I think that's why it was like the limit of work was as small as they could possibly get it,
Yeah.
assuming everything went perfectly.
That kind of goes back to my first question, though, that if we're no longer sticking to that original approved
Yeah,
footprint, does that change our outcome or not? And I don't know the answer I'm asking.
yeah.
Uh, Kristen,
Well, what I
could you clarify that question? I'm not entirely clear what when you say footprint, I'm thinking the footprint of the house and the necessary space to build the house, right?
Right, but also the permitted area of disturbance. So when we were looking at this original notice of intent and we were talking about where the limits of the city ordinance riverfront area and the Wetlands Protection Act and city ordinance 100-foot buffer zone is, they wanted to stay outside of those resource areas and buffer zones, but now we're talking about going into those resource areas and buffer zones. And my question is just, does simple tree clearing, but not stumping or earthwork, change that outcome? Do we have to go all the way back to the beginning, or you know what I mean? Like, what are we looking at here? Is this a filing? Is this an administrative approval? I'm not really sure what this procedure is.
Yeah, I guess Mitch, can I share my screen? I just wanted to share the plan again. I think this is the one that I think this is like the final plan. or very similar to what this is alternative E, but there wasn't one actually called F. There was like E1 and E2 or something. But I just wanted to show that again, just so we're all remembering what's going on here. And I think this is all on the north edge. These
Mhm.
trees are on the north edge
Correct.
of that line.
Yeah.
Um, and so I I think um, I think because this was well, I know for NOIs in the past, when something has come up, during construction, where they think, oh, we might actually have to change this a little bit to make it work right. Um, I don't. Mitch has gone through this before at a meeting, but um, DEP like lists the process of like if it's like a very minor change, you can just like change it. You can just say what the change is in the minutes, and um, that can be like the approval of that minor change. Um, or uh, there's like a whole NOI um, amendment process or whatever it's called. But that's for like Wetlands Protection Act NOI, and this is our city NOI. But we also say that we'll follow the procedures of the state NOI. So I not that I remember, have we had an issue where it was a local ordinance NOI that we needed to amend. I don't know. Mitch, have you thought about this more? I didn't know this was coming up until just now, so I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky just because if it is buffer zone too, because then I don't think we could just do our local process if it should go through the state.
Because then for the state, well, but for the state, I mean, we did just there was an RDA for this project too, though, right?
Right. But that didn't include these trees, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a negative determination stating that it was within jurisdiction, but there would be no negative impact to the resource areas. I forget.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so, because that was just buffer zone.
If I could just jump in, yeah,
Sure.
I don't really know what I'm talking about, but as far as the um, you know, RDA and that whole process, there was six different alternate plans. And so, you know, even just let's say it was E2 or whatever it was, or F, we don't
Mm.
D or C actually would have included those trees. We wouldn't even have needed it. So what I'm saying is it's kind of like this all kind of evolved, quickly. Um, you know, it was a meeting and then E2 or whatever it was approved. And then it's like, we didn't even think of it until the tree guys came or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I'm saying if
Yeah.
any of those, if even just a slightly different, bigger, clearing, area approval would have included those trees. So it wouldn't have, it would have been taken care of that way. But
Yeah, and I think that's part of what complicates it because we rejected those options, you know what I mean? So now
yeah,
it's like going back and saying, oh, like, well, maybe.
yeah. And the reason for rejecting those options, again, I don't know what I'm talking about. You guys are the experts, but it was the only thing that was ever discussed was you know, whatever's involved in wetland and I guess the soil and earth and all that stuff. So, how, if those stumps were left, how is that impacted? I mean, because we're talking about basically within 5 to 10 feet of the edge of the cleared area. It's not like it's 5 to 10 feet from the stream. It's on the very outer edge of the buffer zone. So I'm just asking you guys, like, how does leaving those stumps affect anything?
My understanding is that it's not a function of the stumps, which I think it's great that you are planning to leave those stumps and not grind them. I think the challenge is that in order to drop those trees, you're eventually going to have to be bringing in heavy equipment to the area that has previously been denied basic access to, right, for that type of equipment. But I would also say, and please, more seasoned commissioners, if I'm over my skis, by all means, let me know. But it seems like the original contention with those various plans was the footprint of the home and adjacent buildings itself. And so while I think there is still probably an amendment that needs to be made, it's not about the home or the building or any of the construction equipment itself, but just the equipment necessary to remove or drop the trees. Is that a fair assessment?
And from what,
That's,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's
Go
kind
ahead,
of what I was
Erica.
thinking, because, I mean, once the house is built, if they come back to us, a lot of times we've done, let Mitch just make an administrative, go check them out and then let people take, if they're dangerous, leaning toward their houses. So, I don't
But
know.
if they're leaning, wouldn't it be safer to address that issue prior to the construction of the home?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that,
Right.
if the house was already there, we would probably not have too much of a problem with it, but just doing it now. I don't know. I know, Kristen, you're looking not very.
Well, I'm just also remembering that didn't we also kind of condition that by saying that there would be permanent markers in the field saying that this is a no touch zone, no work beyond this limit, and that limit was kind of where the silt fence is.
It was super tight.
So you're going beyond where we said we would allow you to do work.
But I mean, I think it was nothing beyond there without
Without
essentially
coming to the
without
commission.
approval of the Conservation Commission.
That's
So
a good
if we
point,
approve
yeah.
it, then and so I just looked up just to clarify this like amendment process. I just looked on MACC's handbook, and so for the state, we had a determination of applicability, and it talks about amending orders of conditions, and then it says presumably a determination of applicability or ORAD could also be amended by agreement of the applicant and the commission, although this has seldom, if ever, occurred. The 1985 Mass DEP policy is silent on the broader subject. The same judgments and processes would apply. And the process, essentially, it says, yeah, either approving it if it's minor, approving it in like the minutes, or like going beyond that, they would have to, there has to be like a new public hearing for an amended order of conditions and like go through that whole process. If it was, if we felt like it was changing the scope of the project significantly.
I feel like under the Wetlands Protection Act, under the state, this would be minor buffer zone activity.
Yeah.
It's like 8 trees. I mean, even if maybe we could convince them to shave it down to 6 or 7, I think that would be minor buffer zone. I guess I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about the ordinance because we made such a fuss about it before.
Well,
But
I was actually thinking, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know one of the other things we had spent time talking about was some kind of buffer that people could see. What if they left them as like sort of snags, so that it was more kind of a delineation that you could see where the property ended or where they weren't supposed to do any more work.
Yeah, I think that's what they were offering. But
Well, they were
like
talking about stumps, but I'm talking about like
like
maybe
15 foot.
Yeah.
I like that
I
idea.
think
I don't know.
But I still go back to Liz's comment that, I don't know what your contractor is going to be using, whether it's a, guy with a chainsaw, climbing the tree by hand, or are they using like a feller buncher, or, I don't know, but there's going to be slash hitting the ground. It's definitely going to hit those smaller trees. It's going to create a bigger impact than just selectively removing 6 trees. It's not as clean as that in an area that dense.
Yeah, I mean the picture makes it look first a little more dense than it actually is. I mean, there's some decent space around those trees, but I know what you're saying. And as far as that's the thing, it's a good point because we actually the different tree companies we're going to do it in different ways, even within the approved area. Some we're going to climb, and then but this company that I think we're going to go with has some really big equipment. I guess they're considered, loggers. So they have a cutter on the bottom, chainsaw, and then a machine that can reach and grab.
Yeah, it's a feller buncher. And honestly, they're
Exactly.
pretty clean. They like pick up the whole tree and then just move it over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So theoretically, not even theoretically, they would keep the machines inside of the approved area, and just because those other trees are close enough to do that.
Well, that does alleviate the slash issue, you know?
Yeah. And I was gonna say, like Erica was saying earlier about, if there is a tree there, or if there is a house and there are leaning trees, like it's probably less impactful to remove them now than after there's a house there, because then how are they going to get the equipment in? You know,
It'll
um,
cost a fortune, which is what, I mean, they're young, my son and daughter-in-law. I mean, it's, every dollar counts. So
yeah.
to try to remove those later would be, you know.
Well, on that note, devil's advocate here, I don't know if Mitch, you want to pull that photo back up, but if there's some younger trees with a smaller DBH, are you worried about those in the future? I mean, you really only want to remove 6 to 8 trees here, or like,
That's a good point, but that's a good point. I don't know,
Well,
maybe
isn't
they'll
one of the
grow.
issues with those trees is the lean that they currently have? And if you remove that canopy, aren't those younger trees just as likely to not, excuse me, develop that lean because they're going to be growing towards the light, right?
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
good,
I mean, there comes a point where um how far down that rabbit hole of like, oh, well, there's that sapling there 30 years from now. That
yeah.
could be a problem.
Mhm.
Whereas right now, I think what we're really looking at is real concerns around the safety of the dwelling. And we're in a position, as Erica has pointed out and Travis, to alleviate that concern while potentially even maintaining the equipment to do so within the framework of what has already been approved um, as disturbance area. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just we kind of mentioned it, but truth is there's a bunch of other trees that are mediums. I guess you call them medium size. That could be an issue, and we didn't even ask for those because we didn't, not gonna come to you guys and say, hey, can we clear another 20 trees? So it was.
There might be some bulk.
What's that?
There might be a bulk at that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so just realistically, we asked the tree guys to say, okay, which ones are really the issue? And so we
What's the
picked,
danger?
the ginormous ones
And I
that
think,
are close to
yeah,
there's ginormous ones that are another 10 feet away. We didn't ask for that.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good photo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that does,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you see it's all
Yeah, that one right there on it's almost on the top of the hill.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you can see the leaning on the
Mhm.
one on the far right better.
Especially.
Yeah, that's the worst one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also throw in that, as far as like proactively doing this before. It's a good, that. So one thing that we never did, it was all just maps, right? We were all looking at pieces of paper that John worked really hard on and all that.
Right.
But we were never, until we were able to actually survey that out and get it marked and actually figure out where that silt fence was going to be. It was really hard to visualize which trees would be included and excluded. And it was impossible to visualize which trees were going to be too close until we actually put that silt fence in. So I'm not sure how we could have done this before, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I would like to just based strictly on the lean concern, right? So when you're felling a tree, its natural inclination is to go into the direction of the lean, right? Logical. In order to combat that lean, you would have to implement some sort of mechanism to counterlever that, if that's the right word. And so I feel like that is probably where we would be most likely to encounter um, drift, if you will, outside of the area that has already been approved for disturbance. So I think that we would probably need to see something that sort of addresses how whoever it is that you choose to go with is going to direct these trees and ensure that it's not going to require massive equipment going into this area that we have already determined is unacceptable to disturb.
Yeah, we could probably get that. I'm not sure what form it would come in, but like a plan from them,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
or a plan or a guarantee or whatever that they're not going to put heavy equipment on that side.
And I guess I was also going to say, like, if we did approve it like that, it could be conditioned on, them not having heavy equipment um, outside the building area.
Yeah, I mean, I they
So,
said they could do that anyways, but we would have to confirm that.
yeah.
Can you get that really big tree that was in the first photo all the way to the left? It looked like the farthest in closest to the resource area. Yeah, on the left side of that photo from the road. If they're using their feller buncher, and would they have to cut that little sapling that's in front of it? It looks like well, actually, is that kind of a sucker? I can't even tell if that's a sucker or
Here it looks like there's
sapling.
something dead there, and then who knows what that other, because there's two things, right? One's going up and the other's going to the side there.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
confusing.
would guess that one of the sides probably not a viable tree.
I will just put this on the record that, you know, the resource area that is protected under the city ordinance provides wildlife habitat. I mean, some of these trees might provide bat roosting habitat. They certainly provide shade, which is thermal mitigation along the stream. And, obviously there's birds. Any slash or large coarse-weedy debris on the forest floor provides cool, moist microclimates for amphibians and reptiles. There's habitat value here. I acknowledge that topping them and maybe leaving like a 15-foot or 10-foot stump is still valuable to other species and it's still wildlife habitat, and I appreciate that. And just in order to get at some of these trees, I feel like some of these other trees are going to get cut in the process. And just want to make really clear that's my opinion on the matter. There is
Mm.
wildlife habitat and also shade habitat, and it's not, I know it's technically like upland, but it is a resource area protected under the city ordinance, and I just wanted to say my spiel on that.
Um, yeah, I guess one question I have is, um, it in the past when people have wanted to take down trees that are like leaning towards their house or whatever, um, usually we ask them to keep like 10 to 15 feet. um, I don't know what you were planning, if you were planning on cutting them right to the ground, or if it would be possible to leave that extra height for habitat purposes.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember, 2, 3 years ago, my other son, we built a house on a log plain road. I'm sure that was a million projects ago. You guys, I don't.
Yeah.
But
I remember that.
you do? Okay, so yeah, there was five also ginormous trees that we ended up having a similar thing, and it was, anyways, we snagged them to 15, which is fine. It accomplished the purpose as far as any risk, but the bill from the tree people was an extra $5,000 because they had to rent a lift to come in, and they actually hired another company to come in with a lift. So the difference between 15 feet and 5 is thousands of dollars. So
Hmm.
I would just ask you guys to, consider that.
That's a really good point because if they're using a feller buncher, they can't lift it up and then do the cut.
Exactly.
Yes, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
It,
Yeah, that's more of a hand chainsaw kind of a job, I think.
right. Which if you climbed, you wouldn't have the heavy equipment over there. You could climb and piece them down, but I think there could be potentially more damage to other trees around it that way because you're sending big chunks down one at a time. I don't know.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I was almost thinking the feller buncher is probably better, but because I've literally seen them just pick up a tree and pluck it, but they definitely do cut it really close to the ground.
Yeah, and they don't have to. I mean, if snagging was acceptable at 5 feet, I think they could probably do that, but I'd have to check with them.
Yeah. When are you guys hoping to start construction?
So we're trying to get past, well, the clearing and all of the approvals here, Mitch's, inspection and all that, and then it would be, we, have to still have to submit to the town for the building permit. So that's going to take a few weeks. It's hard to answer that. I guess the answer would be as soon as possible.
Mhm. Kristen, are you wondering if maybe they could come back at our next, like maybe talk to the people and see what methods they, would be using and how tall of a snag they could leave and
I was, but
maybe
I,
get
I
some
just
more information.
hate to drag this out. I
I
really
know, I
do.
know.
This is like a couple trees in, I feel, I personally, I don't want to speak for the commission. This is my personal opinion that under the State Wetlands Protection Act, this is pretty minor buffer zone stuff and, you know, not a big deal. Under the ordinance, because we went through such rigmarole, I don't know where the commission stands, but personally, I feel like I don't know, especially if you could shave it down to 6 trees. I don't know if you really need that left tree all the way on the left side of this particular photograph, but
And that's fine. That one was included because more of an issue with the driveway slash street. It's kind of leaning in, towards the street, but I guess that's not really the house issue.
yeah. I guess long story short, I sort of feel like, you know, maybe it wouldn't need a new application, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. Curious what the other commissioners have to say about this.
I kind of agree. I think seems like it's not not more too much more invasive than they're already doing. And I think I'd also rather have them maybe get them down sooner than later in case somebody tries to put nest in it or something.
I was thinking the same
Um,
thing, Erica. You read my
yeah,
mind. Before the bird season, before the breeding season
yeah.
starts. Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, there's acreage all around it. I don't know how much that factors in. You know, it doesn't. Okay.
Not really, because it's not unless you own it and it's in a conservation restriction. It could be developed by somebody else, probably John.
Well, they do own a lot of what
It's 2 acres.
2 or 2 acres,
Yeah, and it's all wooded, but
and it was all local riverfront area too.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right, just on that parcel. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just on
yeah.
that parcel, the whole thing was.
So as far as birds and
So,
habitat and things like that, I mean, it's not like one of these situations where there's one tree in the center of town, you know, but I don't know.
so Kristen, you're saying you think it's minor for the Wetlands Protection Act, and then for our ordinance. I mean, the ordinance comes down to us, us like our decisions on how that gets enforced, I guess. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think I agree that it doesn't. It to me, it seems like other projects where during construction they've noticed something that they need to make a minor alteration to the plan and then we'll approve it or approve it with some kind of condition just in a meeting we'll vote and then they're allowed to do it. To me, it kind of falls on that level. Um, I don't know. I mean, even the center school, when their contractor accidentally cut down like a whole section of forest that they weren't supposed to cut down. And then I don't even think we had them do like an amended order of conditions. We just like approved their plan to replant or whatever, like that was way more impactful than this, I
It
think.
does vary town to town. I worked on a project where a couple trees were cut in buffer zone, and I won't say the town, but they were mitigated heavily and an enforcement order was issued. So it does vary town to town. I will just say that. Um,
Um,
but I feel like, especially if that tree that was on the far left side of that photo was eliminated from the proposal and the commission received a plan from the tree cutting company that, the agent could review and approve. Um, I feel like the interests protected under the act for riverfront area are still going to be relatively maintained. If what did we say the percentage was? Was this one? No, that was the last project.
Yeah.
It wasn't calculated out, but let's say like 6 or 7 trees out of, I don't know, 200 is still pretty. I feel like the interests are pretty well preserved.
and it's a lot more than 200. I think is but 2 acres.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one in the front, we'll forget that, and then that's fine. And then as far as the only thing I would ask is they're ready to get in there for the approved area. For them to come to do that and then come back later to do these other ones, because of paperwork or whatever, would be kind of expensive.
Yeah, I think that's where Kristen was saying we could tonight decide to allow the tree cutting, um, and but that Mitch would have to
Yep.
approve the plan. So, I mean, you could ask those guys, as soon as possible to just send, whatever their plan would be
Yep.
to Mitch, and Mitch can just go ahead and approve it, and then you wouldn't have to come back to another meeting. It would just be Mitch's next
Yeah.
work day. He could approve it.
That would be great.
So
And I
that,
think the idea is that, like heavy machinery outside that silt fenced area would be no bueno. Is there a lot of slash that's gonna hit other saplings and knock off crowns? Are you leaving coarse woody debris in place? That kind of stuff. Just kind of have them kind of map it out.
Okay.
yeah. Mitch, does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, that works.
I just thought I would loop you in on that since we were asking that you
Yeah,
might
and
be the one approving.
Emily, we haven't heard from you. Are you good with this? I feel like I've been doing all the talking.
Sounds fine. I like all the suggestions to keep some stumpage or to have it be taller snags if possible. It's great for wildlife habitat, and having some kind of plan that shows that you're going to minimize the impact seems perfectly appropriate.
Yeah, can you have your tree guys put that in the plan too, if they can leave X number of feet for stumps? Maybe
Yep.
it's closer to the road or easier or not easier. I don't know.
Okay.
The more,
The taller, the better.
yeah.
Okay. Taller the better. All right.
But,
Yeah.
within reason.
Yeah. It's weird. A few feet can make all the difference when it comes to, the cost, but
Mhm.
it depends, because if they end up having to, so we're saying that if necessary, they could also climb and chunk it piece by piece, but preferably the machine. I'm saying if they said they could do it, by reaching. So I just kind of want to have a plan B if they're not able to reach any of them.
Personally, I feel like if they're not driving heavy machinery in there, I'm good. But and I've seen those feller benchers work and they're so easy. They just literally, it's like plucking a flower. It's
Yeah.
so they're
Okay.
huge though, so it might seem like overkill for your tiny little project. I don't,
They were bringing, they were bringing that anyways. That's what
Think
they
so,
said. So
Mm.
Yeah.
partly because of even the approved area, we had a lot of conversations with all these guys. And even within the approved area, there's a need to try to somewhat, like you said, pluck it, um, without it just falling into oblivion and destroying everything outside of the approved area. So that they have to be careful anyway. You know what I'm saying?
I
Yep.
don't personally have a preference one way or another, especially if you're going to be
Yeah.
looking at thousands of dollars in differences. Again, just present the plan, I guess, to Mitch and
Okay.
see what he
Yeah.
says.
All right.
Yeah. So I think for our purposes, maybe we should just someone make a motion and vote, and then just so that we can show that we're in agreement that this is something that we approve.
So I guess I can make a motion to approve. Do we have to do two, one under the Wetlands Protection Act and one under the ordinance, or is this all in one? Because it's
I mean, if it's the same for both, I would just say that it's for both, maybe.
okay. So I guess minor riverfront area under the city ordinance and buffer zone under the Wetlands Protection Act, selective tree removal up to 7 trees. In the outer riverfront and 100-foot buffer zone for Picket Lane R23-49B. That good? Forget anything.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a second. Any discussion on that? The only thing I would say is to amend that motion to add that the plan must be approved by the agent.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Everyone good with that amendment? Okay. Any other discussion on that? All right, so we will vote on this minor uh, amendment to the plan. Kristen,
Aye.
Erica,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Elizabeth.
Aye.
All right, and I am an aye. So, all right, you guys are tentatively approved. Just submit the plan to Mitch, and then Mitch can sign off on it, and then you're good.
Super. Awesome.
All right, good luck with the building out there.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
God, thanks for bumping us towards the front here. Appreciate
Yeah, no problem. All right, have a
it. You
good
guys
night.
get to Stone Ridge Lane yet?
That I think is what we were going to talk about next. If you
Oh,
guys want to
really?
stick around for that.
I'm just curious. That's literally like what, 50 feet? I think the area that's being is it about the area that's being sold or potentially sold?
It's the area that the city was going to sell like 2 years ago and
Yeah.
then didn't sell it.
Was it that long ago?
Almost 2 years
Oh
ago, I
my
think.
gosh.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
looking at it.
Oh, because there's a piece of, well, anyway, all right. This right behind our house is Rob Cohn is trying to sell a big chunk. So I don't know if that's what it is.
Oh, no, this is there was like a property that was taken for back taxes.
Okay. Unrelated.
It was up on the
Oh,
hill.
up on the hill. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
House.
yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
house, and then there's like trails going through it.
Yep.
And the Conservation Commission had asked the mayor to not sell the part with the trails and to give it to the Conservation Commission as conservation land.
Got it.
And they didn't sell it, but they haven't done the conservation land part yet. So
Oh, okay.
we were going to talk about that some more.
I see. Yeah, unrelated. Except that we walk on those trails pretty often.
Yeah, and they're the picture of Greenfield, so
Yeah.
hallmark.
Yeah. All right. Well, excellent. All right. Well, thanks you guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Well, that gives us a good segue into. I just asked Mitch to add a few things to the agenda that we might want to talk about. One of which being the Stone Ridge Lane parcel discussion, just because I've had multiple people reach out to me and ask if the Conservation Commission had talked to the current mayor about preserving that land as conservation land, and I know that we haven't done that yet. Elizabeth and Emily, I'm assuming you might know what we're talking about already, but if you don't, let us know.
You
I
want to do
can,
a quick 5 minute
yeah, I'll
catch
do
up and
it.
then I'll use the bathroom really quick because I just
Okay,
need to pee.
sure,
Okay,
sure.
I'll be right back.
I'm gonna look I'm gonna look for a map. I think I actually might. Oh, sorry, my cat is meowing in the background.
Can't hear
Um, okay.
it.
Stone Ridge Lane. I have a bunch of hmm. Well, that's not a very good photo. That's also not a good photo. All right, I'm just gonna open. Just gonna open that. Except that doesn't show the parcels, but that's okay. Just give you an idea. Oh,
I
let
think
me
I get
look.
the gist of like where
I've
it's
got
at.
a map, Travis, that's got the trails that I think
Yeah.
shows it. I'll
Okay,
just share
yeah.
that just so you
I was
can see
gonna
what I'm.
open Mass Mapper here and zoom
Yep.
in.
This was one of the files. Is this
Mhm.
correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So like oh yeah, September 22nd, 2021. Um, that 87 Stone Ridge Lane and the parcel next to it that's 13 acres. The city took those for back taxes and then they were going up for auction. And the Conservation Commission had reached out to the mayor multiple times through emails and had the mayor at a meeting. And the Mayor Wiedegardner said that they pretty much had to go through with the auction at that point, but we didn't believe that was true. And so we ended up submitting a letter to the mayor asking her to remove the 13 acres from the auction, and we sent it to the newspaper and it got like front page newspaper coverage. And so then she delayed the auction, um, and then it ended up taking the 13 acres out of the auction when it went back up again, and they only sold the house on 87. So that 87 Stone Ridge Lane parcel R0310 6 acres, that was sold. Um, but the 13 acres the city retained. And at that point, we said, we reached out to the mayor and said that that should be conservation land because the parcel immediately to the south of that is conservation land. So it's a budding conservation land already. And it has those trails. And this is like a heat map, and you can see a lot of people cross through, up to the north there. But I've hiked this before, and I went down, to the southeast, that trail that's less used, down to the river, and that at least down by the river, that land is the utility owns that. The hydro
Eversource, whatever.
company.
First light.
No,
Evers,
first light.
first light, yeah.
So like all along the river, like that's protected and it's like a marked trail and everything. But that little trail down, it was like the only way to get there from city property. So we had requested that become conservation land, and you can see Greenfield Police Department right there. There's been an ongoing issue at the police department with um, like groundwater seepage into the building. And so the mayor said that they couldn't they didn't want to transfer it to conservation land yet because what if they needed access through that property to fix the police station, which there's like a huge cliff
Yeah,
between the
this
police
is.
station and this property.
I wish
So
topo lines were shown because, like, right at the property line on the kind of western side, right behind the police station, is the ridge. So,
yeah, I can show I have one here that I can share. And so anyway, basically we asked, numerous times over the past, year and a half or whatever. The yellow property is the property, and then with the trails, and then there's, those topo lines going down to the police station there, and that's 156 feet from the edge of the police station to the edge of the parcel up there.
And an 80-foot elevation gain, or maybe 100
Something like,
almost. Yeah,
yeah, I
90,
think like
90
100,
really. 100, yeah.
100 from there to
Right.
there.
Yeah. So, and it's all
So you're
bedrock.
not
So
going
Yeah,
there's
for
that
it there.
too.
it's just like a rock cliff. So anyway, I've had multiple people reach out to me since Mayor DeSorger has been in office and asked me if the Conservation Commission has reached out to Mayor DeSorger to request that that land become conservation land. And we haven't done that. And I believe all that would need to happen is the mayor would have to request that city council transfer it to the Conservation Commission, to the custody and care of the Conservation Commission, and then city council would vote on it, and then it would be conservation land and permanently protected at that point. So that's what we asked before, and hasn't happened yet. So I don't know if anyone has anything they want to add after
Yeah,
my
let's
long.
go. So do we have to like vote as a commission on whether to submit a letter to the new mayor, or is this an email? Like, is this really informal or?
So my thought was the like we got really confrontational with the previous mayor only because we needed public pressure to like get her to not sell it in the auction. So it
Mhm.
got really confrontational back then because that's what we had to do. But I think the least confrontational way to start this would be to invite the mayor to a conservation commission meeting and have a discussion about it. So I think that would probably be a good first step. And I do know I did talk to the mayor um, on the phone one time, and she was just telling me that she is planning on coming to a meeting of every board and commission anyway. I mean, it probably takes a while to get to all of them,
Right.
but I think that would probably be a good first step, would just be inviting the mayor to a meeting and specifying that, we want to talk about the Stone Ridge Lane parcel. So I don't think we need to like vote on that or anything, but
Right.
I don't know. Either I could reach out to the mayor's office, or yeah, I could do that. I could reach out to the mayor's office. I was gonna
Same.
say Mitch could, but I feel like mm, I had there was another issue with with the former mayor with the CPC, and um it came down to where it was better for me as the chair to be the one communicating than the city employee who was
Oh,
assisting, because
gotcha.
um so even though this is not confrontational right now, I think it'd be better if we set the precedent that I will do that.
I'm so glad you brought this up. Thank you so much. This is,
Yeah, and like I said, I've had multiple people ask me about it.
yeah.
And I mean, I've told them that, my thinking was that, you don't want to hit the mayor like her first week in office with,
Right.
she's got a lot going on, I'm sure. So, but
Well, it's been
it's been a little while
3 months.
now. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a
It's
little while.
Right.
time to bring it up. We've been all thinking about it, so I am grateful that you brought
Emily,
it up.
do you have?
There might be some nice timing there. Inviting her to come since she's going to come anyway. It's
Mhm.
relationship building for us. And this is a really easy win to offer to a new mayor. Like, who wouldn't
Yeah,
be excited about this?
yeah,
And so we can say, hey, there's this wonderful thing that you can do. It's so easy.
yeah.
Anyway, it seems like a strong position to be in as opposed to where we were before.
Yeah, and I will say the only the only thing that potentially complicates it a little bit is there has been um, a lot of discussion about the tax title, the tax taking process, and how people
Well,
have
that's
lost
fair.
their equity. And this
Yeah.
was one of those properties where that happened. So, um, I'm not sure if the
That's
city,
difficult.
there was like, I think I heard there was like a lawsuit or something about trying
Mhm.
to recoup some of the equity because the state Supreme Court said that you couldn't do that anymore. And so I don't know.
Hmm.
That it does potentially complicate things, but I don't know if
Yeah.
this property would be um
Is there a private interest still in the property? Is that part of what you're saying? That people lost
no
money and
no.
therefore they're like contesting it or something? Or
Well,
We don't
I
know for sure.
my understanding was that the person who the property was taken from wanted um to be paid for I think the city made like $270,000 on the other parcel, and they owed
Mm.
like 50,000 in taxes.
Oh,
So
I
I think the
see.
issue is they
Yeah.
want that other
So
220,000.
there was a
That
net
Hmm.
gain for the city
Yeah.
for
And
selling this.
that's how it used to happen. And then the
Yeah,
state Supreme Court just ruled that you can't do that anymore.
that's
So
seems fair to me.
so any excess
Yeah.
would have to go to the person whose property it was. But that didn't happen in this case because it happened right before that
Oh,
state Supreme Court ruling. So
God,
that's why I'm saying I don't know
that's
if there's
painful.
any kind of restitution that the city is planning
Yeah,
or could do or wants to do. So that's, you know,
interesting.
just wanted to add that as like
We didn't
another
make any money off of
factoid.
this property, part of the property, so they
Yeah,
didn't sell it.
the city didn't
So,
make any money off of this part. That is true.
No.
so
But they did take it
yeah.
for back
Yeah.
taxes. So anyway, Erica and Kristen, remember the all the special meetings we had? We
I
had like
do.
Hmm.
three meetings a week to like.
That's
Hmm.
I mean, I care a lot about this. I think that you literally Google City of Greenfield, Massachusetts, and it's the picture on our website. It's
Yeah, the ridge.
right.
completely
Yeah,
illogical that you would want to develop that in my mind.
yeah,
And wasn't this whole part of the open space plan of priority areas that we wanted to purchase, and when it came up,
yeah.
she tried to sell it off, and
Exactly. It's been previously identified in our city plan. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. I um I'll try to look up the letter that we sent originally, and I can send that to Emily and Elizabeth just as like a heads up of what it was. A very long meeting where we wrote the letter all together collaboratively in a meeting, and the newspaper was there like taking notes and
And I'm sure it's water under the bridge now, but I would strongly support any restitution to those people, if it was possible.
yeah.
Just
Yeah. They came and spoke at
philosophically.
our meetings and they were really distraught. And it was,
Hmm.
yeah, there were a lot of emotions during that
Yeah.
time.
It was unfortunate
Yeah.
Mhm.
whole situation, but
And I don't, so another factoid is that I don't think the city has created any new conservation land in like, I don't know, like almost 20 something or 30 years, or it's been a long time since um I think there have been like, agricultural preservation restrictions and things like that, but
mhm.
Yeah.
not just like conservation land managed by the Conservation Commission.
Well, wasn't it the Wedgewood Gardens or the Marks Meadow there or whatever it's called now?
Oh yeah.
But that was,
Yeah,
I think that was that was kind of the last thing, and that was years ago now.
was that in the 90s
Yeah, yeah, or right,
or
or
early
early
2000, like
2000, yeah.
2002
So,
maybe.
Oh
That
gosh.
long before I lived here. I don't
mhm.
know.
And that was
But
sort of forced, kind of because it flooded.
Okay, so I will reach out to the mayor's office and invite the mayor to a meeting and specify that that's one of the topics we would like to discuss. Um, so I also added conservation land management updates to this agenda. Um, and Mitch, I know have you been doing more of the boundary marking? That was one thing I was curious about.
Done a few properties. I'm tied up with the grant right now.
Oh, okay. That's the grant for the Miller's Meadow.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I did I think it's the Gotland at the baseball field.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Um,
If you
yeah,
want the
so
help, Mitch, I'd be interested in coming out sometime.
Oh, sure.
yeah, and then I guess I also just wanted to discuss if anyone had any, especially since we got some new members here, if anyone had any like dreams or aspirations for what we might be able to do with conservation land that we haven't done. Last year we talked about doing some like trail maintenance at Griswold,
We never
and
did it.
we
And it's
talked and talked, and then
deteriorated. I was gonna bring it
yeah.
up. It's deteriorated. The bird box has fallen down. We never put the bat boxes
Mm,
up. The tree work hasn't been done. The trail work is not done. It's the soggier than ever and getting more foot traffic than ever.
yeah. Yeah, and so I think part of that was we were kind of going back and forth on permitting because some of that is like buffer zone, and I think
Riverfront.
we still need to file like and hold a hearing ourselves um before ourselves. So we're like the applicant and the I know it's really weird, but that's what it says in the handbook is that
Yeah.
we have to hold a hearing before ourselves.
At least it's
Um
publicly recorded, I suppose.
yeah, and then people can provide input and
Yeah.
the public can provide input and
I have
things
some
like that.
questions.
Sure.
I'm really obviously interested in all this.
Yeah.
Um, so what are the ways that we do this? Is there funding for paying for work? Is it all volunteer? And if it is volunteer, is it just us that does it, or can we reach out to the public to help?
Yeah, um so I think since I've been on the Conservation Commission, we haven't really done anything. So it's kind of all new, but we do have some money. Uh there are it's very complicated. We have all these different funds, and the Griswold property actually has its own fund that was money from logging done on the site. Um, so I don't know if Mitch, if you remember how much is in that. I think it's like $1,500 or something maybe
Wow.
that's left in that.
Okay.
Not big
Um,
Yeah,
money.
not much.
yeah, and then we also have a conservation trust fund, which can be used for management activities on any property. And that money, so the money in like the Griswold fund, we have to get city council approval for the appropriations. But in the conservation trust fund, city council approves money going into it, but then once it's there, that's
Mm,
ours to spend as we not as we like, but for any land management property. And I think there's only like 1,300 in that one.
yeah.
So we really don't have a lot.
Is that replenished basically at their interest? Like there's no periodic refreshment of it or line item in the
Yeah.
Yeah, the
budget or
line item,
anything?
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing that in the handbook, the MACC handbook, I'll go back to. Um, it talks about how having that fund is good because it can remind the city that it should be putting money into
Mhm.
it. But I don't think that's happened in a very long time. I don't think any money's
Yeah.
gone in. But I think at the moment, I feel like it would be a hard ask to ask for money to go into it because we
Oh,
have
yeah.
also haven't spent any in a long time.
Yeah.
So I think
Start by
I almost think it would be good
proving
to
a
be
demand. Yeah.
good to be spending it and then say, oh, now we're out
Yeah.
because we've done all this great work at such
Well,
a great price.
one of the lectures or whatever the classes I went to on the for the thing we just had, whatever,
MA.
Yeah,
was
the
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, was on grants, and
mm,
wasn't quite what I thought. But anyway, she ended up talking about all the things that they were able to purchase and do and stuff on all their properties. And she and other people were saying apparently their commissions get like an allotment like every single year.
yeah,
Um, and
some
if
of
we
them
if we
do.
got that much, we could actually buy something, but with $1,300, we can't buy
Yeah,
anything. Um,
yeah,
so
Elizabeth.
So yeah, this must exist somewhere and I just haven't seen it yet. But is there a comprehensive listing of the properties and the need, not even the wish list, but the need that the properties have in order to be appropriately conserved? Like
Hmm.
are there challenges on any of these properties that are like high on the list of like, wow, this really needs to be tackled? This is a problem for whatever reason. Because it feels like $1,300 can go really quickly if there isn't a very focused budget around we're going to spend X number of dollars on this develop or this practice.
Yep. Yeah. I assume you have access to the shared Google Drive at
I
this point?
must.
I think in Mitch's email about this meeting, it should have had links to it. So that should get you in there. But anyway, in that shared drive, there's a folder for open space. I put all this together myself. There's this folder for open space, and
Mhm.
then there's a conservation land folder.
Okay.
And then there's rules and regulations, a mapping project, and then there's one for properties. So I have we have a folder for
Hot.
all of the properties in here.
Yep.
Um, and I went through and I found like here's Rocky Mountain Conservation Land, the one that's right next to the property we were talking about in Stone Ridge Lane. And I added like all the most recent deeds for all the properties.
Mhm.
This is one that actually was be sold to the city of Greenfield or town of Greenfield for conservation purposes.
1971.
And then so some of those in I think I might have put this together. So oh yeah, this document. Okay. Conservation land information. So this lists all the properties,
Deed
tax
restriction language.
map
Hooray.
lots, and then yeah, the area, who owns it, if it's deed restricted or um some of them it's hmm, a little less clear, maybe.
Yeah.
But then yeah, if there's language in there that specifies, like I pulled out the language, like this one says grants to the inhabitants of the town of Greenfield for playground and recreational purposes. Um, this one, Green River Conservation. Okay, I don't know.
Is
Anyway,
that the bike path? Or
I think this is one of the like around the Green River swimming area. There's like 4 or 5 different
yeah,
parcels in
oh
there.
yeah, I see. Yeah.
Um, and then I also some of these I have like supporting documents of like, oops, I'm right clicking, of like newspaper articles where they talked about the land becoming conservation land or whatever. And the reason I did all this is because some of these like Shelburne Road conservation land, that property was like taken for tax purposes in the 40s, and it's been in all of our open space plans as conservation land. but there's like no language anywhere where it was designated as conservation land. It's just one of those things that like it's always been treated as conservation land.
Basically
So I,
graduation because it had been so long ago.
yeah, so I was trying to find like all of these, like make sure they actually were conservation land. Um, but anyway,
It's
if
great.
yeah, so
Thanks for
then
doing this.
yeah, so like in this folder, put together any information I had on any of these properties. Yeah, some of these I have newspaper articles about them.
Mhm.
So in addition to that, a lot of those properties, like there aren't really trails there. Um, like there's really nothing there. It's like forested land, basically. Some of those
Well,
are.
and some of them don't have access as
Yeah,
part of
and
the
some of them have
problem.
no access.
No.
Some of them have like easements for access, but it's like through people's yard and like
Mm.
no one's used it in 20 years, so they would probably be a little weirded out if you went through there. So it's complicated, I guess is the I guess I would say start there, look through all that stuff. Um, but another thing that I'll share is that we also don't have great maps. Like some of our properties that have hiking trails, we don't really have good maps for those. So another thing I
We were
did,
working on that, and then our mapper
yeah,
left.
no, I'm the one who was doing this,
Oh,
and
I
then we
thought
just
Fletcher was doing it.
no, he was
Okay.
doing like he was trying to make like an online map thing,
Oh, okay.
and I was trying to make these like paper
The
maps.
walking maps. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have these are just like the first drafts. Like I need to add like a legend and title and all that stuff. But this is like the Griswold GTD property. And then I have both like black and white and color versions. So like if people were looking at it online, they might want to look at a color one, but if you were printing it, you might want a black and white. So there's like the ones that I think really have trails that people could actually hike on is like Griswold, Lillian Street, which it's very small, but um, there are trails that go through there and trails that extend, further in other directions. Um, and they're all houses here. And then the Rocky Mountain, this is the one, there's that parcel that we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, right there. Um, this doesn't show it, but there is a trail that comes
Yeah.
down. And so these trails were taken from, oh man, these were, what's that? What's that like open source mapping?
It used to be Oliver. I don't know what it's called now.
No,
Not Mass Mapper. Are you thinking of All Trails?
Yeah.
no. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. I'll think about it. I'll remember it. But so anyway, I started doing. Oh yeah, here's. I think one of these is. I think this one might be the Green River Conservation Land, and then this is like Got Land, and then this. Oh no, that one's Got. That one's Got.
Yeah.
This one is
Mm.
Green Rivers Green.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought it was below the softball
This is
field.
Green
Yeah,
River Conservation Area where they're doing the knotweed work.
not weed
And then
work.
this
Yeah.
is NIMS Tree Farm land, which is also conservation land on this side. So these three parcels are
I
all
see.
conservation land. So yeah, those are the ones that I think actually have trails that people can get to. But this one, oh yeah, and this is Murphy Park up here. So the yellow is recreation land. So there are kind of trails that go through there. And this trail, wait, I think it's this one is the one that has like there's like native plants that are
Yeah.
Mm,
labeled,
yeah.
Yeah.
like the high school
I
did
think so.
that,
Oh, was it the high school? I thought it was
or someone.
Greenfield.
Yeah.
And my
No,
old
I think
pottery.
I'm
Sorry, go ahead.
No, so I was gonna say I thought that woman was working with her class or something and did it with the high school, but maybe it was Greenfield.
My old pottery
Um,
teacher lives over there, and she told me she put some signs up, but that's on the steep trail that comes down off the back of Murphy's Field
mhm,
and goes down to the little swimming hole. So I
yeah,
don't know if she did the whole, all of them, or just that one.
yeah.
Mm. Yes.
So anyway, this is another thing that we could, you know, maybe kind of finalize some of these
Yeah.
and at least just put them on our website or, like our webpage on the city's website because there aren't really great trail map. Like there are these hand-drawn maps from like 1990 that someone made, which are great. Like, I mean, for hand-drawn maps, they're great, but they could probably stand to be updated. So
Hmm.
this was another thing that I was working on that I haven't. I mean, I feel like they're mostly good. I just need to finalize them a bit.
I just walked on that trail right before our meeting.
Nice. So that was another land management thing that I wanted to bring up.
It's nice to have time to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because, technically 50% of our responsibilities.
Yeah.
We never have time, so it's nice to.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then I guess the other thing I'll add too that I've mentioned before, since I'm also the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, um, so we've been receiving, doing projects for 2 years for the CPC and haven't had a single open space project yet. So if there ever was a project or a property that we wanted to purchase or we wanted to help purchase a conservation restriction for anything like that, we could apply to the CPC to use community preservation money to do that.
I'm
Um,
gonna be bringing some stuff to you folks, either property in Greenfield that is near land we're conserving that people have said, hey, might this boy be something? Or that has been brought to us that are things that could potentially make sense to have the town hold interest or own and fee.
yeah,
So I haven't gotten those projects, but people keep pointing me towards things. So
great.
when I do that, should I email Mitch and Travis with that information and then we can put it on some agenda to discuss? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, I think that'd probably be the best way to do it. And that helps avoid discussions in email, which are not allowed
Right.
for
Yeah.
open meeting law. So yeah, it's generally better to send it to Mitch and then you can
Talk
copy me
together.
too. And then
Okay.
yeah, we can talk it out at a meeting. So
Great.
that's exciting. Did anyone have anything else conservation land related that they've been burning to talk about?
No, just that there is still some stuff at Griswold that has been deteriorating.
Yeah.
Nest box that fell down and,
Oh yeah.
you know, um,
Would it make sense to plan a work day or an assessment day or something along those lines?
Yeah, that's another thing we did. We went out there and we used like GPS and we were like recording like where wet
Awesome.
spots were in the trails and so we kind of did
yeah.
that part already. And um, we just need to get it over the finish line, I think.
Yeah, we even talked to, was it Mike Fish?
Oh,
Lincoln.
Link,
Lincoln.
Lincoln Fish.
Lincoln Fish about, re-upping the information that is linked
The
to the
forest management plan
kiosks.
or oh
No,
oh
there's like
that's
these
right.
like numbered kiosks, and then
Yes.
he had this really
Hmm.
awesome like wildlife description that went along with each one, but it's not online, it's old fashioned. And so we were kind of trying to upgrade that. And he said, well, while we're at it, why don't I just update the language? Because some of that language is a little
Yeah.
bit dated, like there's a, you know, like a snake basking pile and that's gone now, and like an old hollow log that's a good, thumping log for ruffed grouse, and like that's long deteriorated, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
And
But
he was like retiring at the time also, but
Who
like
is he?
I
Still
thought,
in process. He's like
yeah,
tapering off, but he's still
okay.
active.
yeah, but I would love to have him retained to, maybe freshen up that description and maybe get that online, because those kiosks are still there, and I loved his descriptions. I thought they were awesome. And I love Griswold. I go there like 5 days a week. I'm not even joking. I love that
Yeah,
spot. And I never even heard of it until I joined the commission.
yeah.
And I've lived here for 20 years. So I love that spot. It does need a little TLC. And
Yeah,
I know that we have you know, members of the community that agree that it needs some TLC.
and I mean it might be good, you know, just to go out again and like do a quick reassessment and get an idea of what we need to do. Um, it's mud season, so you know
Yeah,
that's the
it's
best time
definitely.
to evaluate where the muddy
Sure.
spots are on the trail.
It's pretty muddy everywhere.
Yeah,
I was
that's
just
true.
there yesterday, so I can tell you, it's pretty
Yeah.
squishy. But
And I think one of the main things is like near the entrance, you like cross a bridge, and then there's like this huge dip
Yeah,
in the
the huge,
trail
yeah.
that's just like almost like a little puddle there constantly and or
that would
mud.
be riverfront, so that would be the first, probably most significant area of a filing if we needed to file.
Yeah,
That spot right there.
and what we were told was that the trail leading up to that, they had like dumped a bunch of gravel in there, and that's why it's all dry until you get to there because that's where they stopped the gravel.
Yeah.
So last year we were talking about buying a bunch of gravel and dumping it in that spot too. Um, but we didn't actually get around to doing any of that.
And we would have to file some kind of permit. So like if
Yeah,
we, and maybe consider alternatives like punch in, unless that's part of a logging access road, in which case that wouldn't work. But yeah, discussions for another day.
yeah. I mean, we can. Um, I don't know if tonight is when we need to like set up a time to go out there and check it out. Uh,
I'd be happy to reach out to Link to see if he's available to work on the signage, if that's
that would
something
be
we're
good.
Yeah, his descriptions were so awesome. I really loved his write-ups. They were great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the last we heard, I think he said that he was going to be working on it.
He
So,
said he was getting
Oh,
funding, I thought. He was talking about getting
yeah, he
funding
was talking about getting a
too.
grant or something.
Yeah.
great. All right, well,
Hmm.
I
But if you could reach
regular
out to him, that would be
yeah,
great.
that would be no problem. I
Yeah,
can
mostly
Yeah.
just let him know we haven't forgotten about him and we haven't
Yeah.
forgotten about his contributions, and we would love to work with
Yeah.
him still.
All
Sure.
right.
I'll try and report back by next meeting about
Great.
that.
And maybe at like our next meeting or the one after that, at some point we can, schedule a time to get out there and check it out. So I guess be looking at your calendars and seeing what might be a good time. Um, okay. I don't want to keep us here too late on an agenda that we did barely had anything. The only other thing I just wanted to mention that I had Mitch add to the agenda was discussion on native plant recommendations and orders. And I added that because I, I feel like, like sometimes you hear an idea and then you hear it like 4 or 5 more times in like rapid succession. And I just heard this idea multiple times about like climate adaptation and preferring native plants where you're on like the northern edge of the range of the native plants so that as the climate warms they're still within their new range and it like helps them move north or maybe not move north but um
Ones
yeah
that
so
are more adaptable. as
ones that are
the
more adapted to more
southerly.
southerly
Yeah, exactly.
areas.
Like oak hickory, trees that are from that range are probably
Yeah,
going to do well over the next 50 years rather than the boreal species.
yeah, and one of the things I read was people who were planting, I don't remember what it was, but some like Appalachian tree in
Hmm.
Massachusetts that it's actually outside the native range, I think, but it was like we are going to be in the native range as the climate warms and it moves. But I wasn't thinking anything like that, but I was just thinking like, should we, when we're issuing orders, should we say like, native to our county, and then like preferably on the northern end of the, I mean,
That's
that's
really
getting really
interesting.
specific,
That's
but
Yeah.
sticky.
Yeah, I mean, we
I
wouldn't.
think I think what we would have to do is we would have to look at the list of, you know, plants that are native to the county, and then ourselves narrow it down to another list
Yeah.
and say like these are the ones that we're in
I
like the northern 25% of the
I would
range.
hesitate to require that kind of thing,
Yeah.
but I would love for us to have recommendations for people.
I think we do have a list of like keystone wildlife and habitat supporting species, like, shrubs that are important for moths and songbirds and trees that
Awesome.
mass produce. I forget where that list is. Mitch, you
Mm.
probably know, but I thought we had a list that was like a significant wildlife keystone species. And maybe we could kind of
Yeah.
snowball off that and maybe think about it
Climate
not in terms of like,
adapted.
yeah, like keystone, we'll just
Definitely.
call it keystone species, but it's not
Yeah.
necessarily for just wildlife or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's trying to respond to the fact that with climate change, different species or different, you know,
Yes.
species groups are going to do better here. So I think that'd be great to offer that information to people since we're
Yeah,
in a
I
position to recommend things.
just closed my browser because I was like, oh, we're getting close to the end of the meeting. And I should,
Sorry,
I don't think
that was the
I
last
Yeah,
turned
that
into
was
a
a
one.
bomb.
pumpkin. I'm sorry, I'm such a baby.
Jump the
But I'll
gun.
I'll
Yeah,
open
you
it
said
back up.
climate adaptation, and that added like 3 hours onto this meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, but all right, I'll
Great.
double check in the folder because I'm sure we have that in there somewhere if Mitch doesn't have it at the tip of his fingers.
And Mitch, do you know where that might be?
I don't think so. Do you know
Is
what
it
it's
in like the
called?
guidance,
I
maybe?
feel like Cassie maybe set that up originally.
Yeah, I'm just under the wildlife section on our guidance folder.
Plantings, maybe?
I could actually probably find it in my email because I think I sent her a list a long time ago.
Oh, there's
Native
native shrubs
shrubs,
for plantings as wildlife food.
Maybe that's it.
and then there's the
Wildlife, is that under the
checklist.
wildlife folder?
Uh, Planting, guidance planting.
Well, maybe we could get better organized with this too. But yeah, like think about
As
both
well.
of those things, keystone species.
There's a list from Grading Greenfield about Greenfield appropriate plant lists. This is like in the links. Yeah. I'm not sure that's what you were thinking of.
I don't
But
remember, to be honest, but
yeah,
maybe
if
we
we had a
narrow
list of
this down.
things that if we had a list of things that we preferred, because a lot of people don't know and they ask us for recommendations, we might as well send them a list of just the list
Yeah.
of what we want and you know.
Yeah, with like a diverse, obviously
Yeah.
there are a number of keystone species, but not everybody wants high bush blueberry, or not everyone has the habitat that'll support that. Some people more maybe want flowering stuff. I don't know.
I don't know. Does anyone feel like they want to tackle that?
I'm actually, I mean, I'm doing some related stuff. So I absolutely could send some, you know, add to the list of documents that's already in those folders.
Okay,
Um, so
great.
yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that was the last thing that I asked to be added to the agenda. Mitch, I don't know if you have any other enforcement updates or anything
I
else.
guess just to talk about Miller's Meadow, the
Sure.
plan was to submit an RDA for the next meeting
Okay.
to have all our permits in hand. And I guess I wanted to check if we had preferences on plant species.
Which is
If
what we
only
were
we
just
had a
talking about.
We were
list.
just talking about, yeah.
So this is for plant species. Are you talking they were planting trees and like meadow, right? Is it like just
Right, there's a
overall plant
right.
species or tree
There,
specific or
Well, they're talking about the meadow. They want pollinators, right? I mean,
Yeah, pollinators.
I thought it was going to be.
but they do want some tree species. There's some work right now by a group in DCR that is actually drafting a wetland trees update of the mass tree. There's a book that's of mass trees. So I can get that list from them. So that might be a good resource. And then I presume that Green and Greenfield and their pollinator group might have some wetland appropriate pollinator plants lists that we could use.
Sure. Asclepias. Lots of
Yeah.
Asclepias. Bone set and gosh, Solidago. I'm sure they've got it on lock.
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say I personally don't have anything specific that I think would be better than what they would come up with, like
Mm.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I mean I know they're gonna be picking native to the county appropriate species, I would assume.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this is
yeah.
not a group of people that's going to Home Depot for their plants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mitch, I guess that's I guess native to the county. That's our
That works.
recommendation.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I figured. Native and doesn't mind getting flooded. Something that
Yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah.
die.
Wetland suitable or riparian
Yeah.
Yeah, they should probably have a clue about
floodplain.
the wetland indicator status for each plant and whether or not it's the appropriate habitat, I would think.
The other thing is if we want some kind of sign involved in the project, talking
Mm.
about everything the project's about, like pollinators and flood zone and
Oh,
carbon sequestration and all that.
like a
Mhm.
kiosk, like an informational kiosk for
Yeah, this or
public.
something
I
like
hear we have
this.
$1,300 we could spend, right?
Oh
Are
gosh, I
we
hope it doesn't cost
What
that much.
are we going to
No.
run into problems with the deed that says you can't have anything permanent there?
Eric said be fine, just
Okay.
put in a sign.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've
What
looked
we
into
did with the
that.
dog thing there.
As far as the price tag, the grant would cover 90% of it.
Oh, awesome. That's great.
Yeah, Erica, I've looked into like what can be built there and
Hmm.
um there are some things that can like you're even allowed to have like an open like a bathroom structure that's like open so that if there was a flood it would flood into the
Oh, okay.
building.
Hmm.
um so
So
it's not just like nothing permanent.
I, given the current usage of the space, I guess I have some concerns around putting anything of this or more permanent nature there. If you know what I'm getting at, in terms of
um
like well, there are trailer or campers that are set up on a semi-permanent basis, and
mhm.
Hmm.
I just guess I think what I'm trying to suggest is that we should be, if we are going to put something of this nature there, we should be thoughtful about its destructive capacity, or rather its ability to be destroyed readily.
Mm,
Mhm.
gotcha.
Yeah, and um yeah, and I think like with all the work that they want to do there, I mean both like with this grant and maybe going further than that, I feel like it might end up kind of changing, the use of the land from what it
Hmm.
is now. Um but but yeah, I mean, uh, it's always good to recognize that there could be vandalism of any structure or anything that gets put out there.
It would be nice to, you know, for the rest of the community to be able to know what's going on or what's out there or, education or whatever we want to put in it.
It seems like the grant likes that kind of stuff too. Is that
Yeah.
element of it?
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if the grant's paying for it,
Look, it says shatterproof.
yeah, shatterproof.
I noticed that too. It matters.
They know what they're doing.
Hmm.
It's got a lock on it, so you can't open it.
Yeah. Maybe by the time, stuff is really, like you said, with whatever's going on out there, why the stuff gets going, put it up after that and, everything's sort of, maybe it will be changed by then.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, I think that sounds good, Mitch.
So to include it on GRDA?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, just show it on the plan where they want to put it, or have an idea of where to put it, I guess. Mitch, do you know another city project, that trail restoration in Highland Park? If Christie was going to be filing for that soon, have you heard anything?
Seems like not immediately. She's still working on
Okay.
the NOI.
Okay. So just to fill everyone else in, there was a Community Preservation Act project to do like a trail restoration project in Highland Park, and it's like near an intermittent stream and wetlands and everything. So um, she reached out to Mitch to kind of get an idea of what kind of filing it would need to be, and it seems like it's an intermittent stream, so it's like riverfront for the local ordinance, but like RDA for the Wetlands Protection Act is kind of what it seemed like. And I told her too that you know, if we do something on conservation land, we also have to file. So
Hmm.
it's not just her. Even we have to do that too. So that's my understanding of that.
Is there a delineation?
I doubt they were paying for like a full delineation. I think it's just like there's an existing trail and they're like doing trail work and like maybe moving it a little bit. Um, I don't even know off the top of my head exactly which trail it is. I haven't seen a map or anything. Yeah. Anyway, Mitch, is that all you had for tonight?
Um, Quick enforcement thing.
Sure.
Pull up. This was at museum
Oh yeah, I saw
on
that. What's going
Mead
on?
Street. It's a museum of our industrial heritage.
Mm.
Was it? Yeah, looks like it was all falling apart then. Somebody was stacking rocks or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to armor the bank,
Mm.
Mm.
but Paul, I didn't know there's a process for that. It seems like they just keep adding to it.
Okay.
Is that by the tap and die place? Is that like Wisdom Way on the left side of the photo, up on the top of the hill?
Yeah, it looks like
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is.
Um,
Yeah, this is like it used
It's
to be
like,
a tap and die, and now it's
yeah.
a museum of industrial heritage.
okay.
Museum of our industrial heritage.
So, a couple comments on that. One is that is an archaeological site of significance. Um, so there's that. Would need a permit, not our jurisdiction. Two, it's natural heritage for rare species. Again, not necessarily our jurisdiction unless it's estimated habitat. And three, that bank has already been restored and armored. Both banks have been. And
Mm.
my company worked on it. I was out there. That was a long, long time ago.
Hmm.
I want to say like 15 years ago. Maybe the coir logs and stuff like that washed away. I'm not sure. But that looks like the spot. If
Mm.
that's facing up north, like Wisdom Way, I can I annotate? No, what
I
I'm
don't think you can on this.
okay.
Yeah, so the fairgrounds are to like the left and up the hill of that picture.
Yeah, like if you go
Yeah.
up, yeah, that okay. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I know where that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yep,
That could not
that's
possibly have been 15 years, Kristen. I remember you working on that.
that was like, yeah, they did the Berkshire Gas remediation. It was the soil
Right.
remediation. They had this huge porta dam up and they dammed half the river and they drained it and they scooped out all the contaminated sediments.
Wow.
I just remember being so hot wearing my hard hat. That was when I lived up in Shelburne. That was so long ago. That was like 2005, 2007, maybe. This is so long ago. We're old, Liz. We're old.
Oh my God, my oldest is 17. So like put that in your hat and think about that for a minute.
Anyways, just wanted to say that I think that this site's been worked on, it's been remediated, and I think the
Mm.
banks have been stabilized, and there's significant cultural and natural resources there.
So Mitch, what's been done so far? Have you just talked to them about it or?
No, nothing yet. I guess seeing, should we just tell them to stop or to fix it somehow? What are we thinking?
Mm.
Well, do they have some plan of what they're doing, or are they just tossing rocks out there? I mean,
I think there's just
do they have like an in plan?
again, yeah, I haven't spoken to them, just heard a complaint.
Mm.
I'll just say that when I was out there working on that remediation project, they had a huge team of archaeologists combing through the soil looking for like old
Shards.
threaded screws, whatever
Mm.
taps and dies are.
Oh, right.
And it was like a big deal. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, Kristen, I think your point is to the timestamp on the last time that this was shored up is interesting, given that kind of a lot of the projects that we've been looking at recently are looking at the impacts of the last
Hmm.
5 years worth of really extreme rain events.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there may be something going on here that is beyond what was already attended to as a result of these extreme, 2+ inches rain events.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, God, we had 14 inches of rain in July alone. I mean,
Right.
that's just bananas. Yeah, good point.
So it just might warrant a little investigation to really understand the level of erosion that is or is not occurring,
Yeah.
and which would explain why they're trying to do something about it, because you can see right here in this picture, like that's so close to the building. And if think about that one that we were talking about last week, where within a couple of months those poles that had been lopped off the ground were suddenly sticking out in the middle of the river, right? So if that level of erosion were to occur here, there would be some really significant impacts.
No doubt.
So it seems to me that it might bear some investigation.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I would just suggest that, does the landowner know that they have other permitting issues at stake, not just us?
Excellent question. Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like we don't know what what the landowner knows or doesn't know, but I mean,
Is that
so go ahead,
is that
Erica.
I was gonna say, is that a private museum? I mean, it's not Greenfield owned kind of thing.
No, it's a nonprofit, I believe.
Okay.
Um, so I mean, the potential options are we could try to work with them to just have them put it back the way it was, which might not necessarily be the best thing. I don't know. Uh, we could do an enforcement order. We could, which, and then like require a plan. Um, if it's work that we thought could be permitted, we could ask them to file an NOI to do the work and then like review it and maybe like modify the plan and then require them, natural heritage and all that additionally. So yeah, I'm not sure what the next steps, which route we want to go with.
I think they're just reaching out and finding out what they think they're doing. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
Mitch, did you have any suggestions?
I guess I just wanted to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. I
Can
mean,
we,
oh, go ahead, Kristen.
I was just gonna say, can we issue like a cease and desist without being enforcement-y? Is that like, can we offer, or can we issue them a letter that says, stop what you're doing, or we will issue an enforcement order?
Hmm.
I
Yeah, I
guess.
prefer not jumping straight
but
to
but
enforcement
we'd
order.
like to talk to you about it, kind of thing.
Yeah, like this is mass historical, this is natural resource, I mean, natural heritage. This is federal, state, and local jurisdiction wetlands, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think a letter like describing all the resource areas and like what permitting is required to, that there is permitting required to do work in those areas.
And to make it feel a little less enforcement-y,
Yeah.
it might be helpful to include something to the effect of, like, what are the issues that you're trying to deal with here?
Yeah.
What are you
That's what I'm saying.
seeing
Yeah.
that has led you to pile this passel of rocks up here on this bank?
Yeah. Should we invite them to come to a meeting to talk about it
Good idea.
as like a first step? And then, I mean, that'll be easier than us trying to relay things through Mitch, going back and forth. So, yeah, I guess Mitch, if you could kindly reach out to them and let them know that they're, should we tell them that we found out because we received a complaint? I don't know.
That sorry,
That makes it sound a little more
like one of your
enforcement-y, doesn't
neighbors
it?
doesn't like you.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
um,
Well, it could just be something like, somebody had some concerns with what was going on back there, and
I mean, or we could just say that we have concerns
Yeah.
based on
right.
what
It's
Yeah.
come to
we're
our
seeing.
attention that,
Yeah, it's come to our attention. There
yeah,
you go.
I mean, we all live in Greenfield. Any one of us could have driven by there.
I know
Yeah.
it's not hard to see over that bridge. I want to say, so this is the exact area where that Porta Dam went up. And I want to say that where those rocks are is kind of where the Berkshire Gas pipe goes under the river.
Mm.
I wonder if they're trying to like stabilize an exposed pipe. I don't know. Let's not opine. I'll shut up. I'm sorry.
Mm.
I will say this is a little similar to Mitch. I don't remember if you were here for this one, but the at Miller's Meadow when there was like some erosion on the bank,
Yeah.
and I think DPW was just like filling in the hole. I think they were filling it with dirt or something, and then it was just like getting washed away again. And so then I don't remember if we did an enforcement order or I think we might have done an enforcement order against DPW. And then they had to like file like how they were going to remediate it.
Yeah. They had to come up with an actual plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though it's kind of weird because like they were on, it's conservation land, but DPW was the one doing it.
Hmm.
So to me, it feels a little bit similar to that. Uh, although this is more just like armoring the bank without permits. So yeah, Mitch, does that sound good?
Yeah, I'll
Reasonable?
reach out to them.
Okay.
I guess just tell them to stop and invite them to a meeting.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And I mean, you could just let them know, like, this is, falls under the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act, Greenfield Wetlands
Yeah, that's what the manual
Ordinance.
says. The first step's education. So
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let them know what the resource areas are. Bang. Bordering land
Land
subject to
underwater,
flooding, probably
riverfront.
underwater, riverfront area. Yeah. Okay, great.
yep. All right, that's all I had.
All right. Well, I think we're at the end of our agenda then. If anyone wants to make any motions to adjourn. Oh, I will say our next meeting date, Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion adjourned was seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned at 8:47 p.m.